Hello and welcome to Shite Talk Histories, an Irish history podcast. We'll get it.
We got it, I think. That's it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Hello and welcome to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast. We are doing a Halloween special.
A spooktacular special.
Yes.
For Halloween, which is this week.
It is this week. It's this Saturday, right?
Yeah, I think so. This Friday or Saturday.
It's my favourite holiday because of the movies. Not Halloween, all horror movies in general, but also the Halloweens.
Christmas and Halloween are the only holidays that have like a film franchises behind them. And Christmas films, by and large, are terrible.
Yeah, Easter gets some religious stuff, I imagine. Like Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ, yeah. I mean, that's basically just one movie.
Yeah.
With several reboots.
But yeah, no, I think it is about the only one. But tell us this, Kev. I was only thinking...
Oh, wait, 4th of July. 4th of July has loads of films, actually. It's like the fucking action...
Born on the 4th of July.
Independence Day.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Independence Day 2, probably.
Mrs. Doubtfire 2, probably.
Yeah.
Before we start the podcast, we might as well tell the audience about our real-life ghost story this week. We may have recorded a podcast and lost it.
Yeah, the spookiest thing of all. We had the episode on the mother and child scheme done and dusted, and then realised that it was fucked. So we'll have to redo that this weekend. But that gives us an opportunity to... This is a very last minute recording. It was something we were planning to do anyway. But now we're just going to have some cans and tell you some ghost stories.
Yes.
Or one ghost story, really.
Well, I have a story as well. You have a story. This will be our first time swapping stories on the same episode.
Yes, well, I don't know if I have a story. I just have an article here. But sure, we'll do yours and see how that goes anyway.
Okay, well, I think that's...
So maybe, flesh yours out a bit. If you've got a short and a long version, do a long version.
Before we start, we'll do our... this is very impromptu, so I can't really think of too much. Thanks for everyone for supporting us on buymeacoffee.com. You can continue to do that by going to buymeacoffee.com, shite talk, and give us money, please. The other thing is, thanks for anyone who checked out my online gig last Friday and bought tickets. This week, I need to plug, I was in a short film that I helped make, and I had to act in a little bit. If you go onto my Instagram page, there'll be a link in my bio to where you can go and upvote and like it so we win a competition. It's good, I promise.
I believe you.
You shouldn't, really. I lie a lot, specifically to you and to your face. But
sure.
But I think that's all we have for today. To tell everyone how good Shite Talk is and make sure we get more listeners, all of that crack. You know the thing you hear every other podcast telling you? Do it for us as well. Like, subscribe,
just
share.
Do that, but for us.
Yeah.
We had some very nice ratings this week, so cheers for that, lads.
Yes.
And ladines.
Ladines and lassies and lads.
And non-laddery.
But yeah, well, I think that's everything for the intro this week. Let's get on to some ghost stories.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, all in search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall. Follow me now as we go back in time. We trace the steps of Irish heritage to find. Joseph from Cavan and Cavan the dog guide you through the ways of Shite Talk.
In 1170, a man named Raymond Legrosse landed in Wexford, a place then known as Bag-in-Bun. I don't think that's Wexford. I think the town name was just called Bag-in-Bun. He called it such because he had two ships, La Bague et La Bonne.
A baguette and a jambon.
Basically, jambon, don't be...
Okay.
Oh my God, I haven't thought about those for like a year.
But
he was going to fight a battle to make sure that Richard de Clare, the 2nd Earl of Pembroke, and more commonly known as Cavan...
Ricky?
Strongbow.
Of course, yes. Yeah. After his 21st birthday when he necked 21 strongbows in a row.
It's a disgusting cider. I can't handle it at all. It's too
really
sweet.
Is, yeah.
Legrosse ended up building Houseland Castle there, and that stood until 1350 when the family replaced it with Redmond Hall, popularly just known as the Hall.
Redmond Hall is a much better name than what was Houseland Castle.
Yeah.
Make a decision.
Also, Redmond Hall's better than the Hall. The Hall that sounds like somewhere
Yeah.
you go for like a local teenage disco.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just so you know that the family had changed their name by then to call themselves Redmond.
From what, LaGrosse?
LaGrosse, yeah, because they gotta fit in with the Irish, make themselves more Irish than the Irish themselves and such.
There you go. Yeah.
Now the place was known as the place where Ireland was won and lost. I don't know why they said that. I imagine that was something they said before the rest of our history, because this is
I mean that happened several times.
Yeah.
This is just this sounds like it was won and lost on a card game.
But we'll get into card games in a bit. Now the house itself, Redmond Hall, it's the inspiration for Foul Manor in Owen Colfer's Artemis Fowl series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I could have looked into all of that more. I didn't read those books. I tried when I was a kid, and not for me.
They're too hard for you.
No, I was too intelligent. But
too many big words.
Yeah, I was using too many big words, and I was like, Owen Colfer he's not the scribe, he's not the literary writer for me. I need something far more vocabulary dense.
Yeah. The movie of that came out this year, actually.
Got panned, yeah.
Oh my god, it's a beat. Like, I read those books as I was a kid, so I was interested to see what they do with it.
And a nostalgia watching it wasn't good.
No, I think we turned it off after about 10 minutes. So his whole character is that he's this really like
he's a spy.
Shy he's a genius, but he's also really socially awkward. The opening scenes of the film is him surfing off the west coast of Ireland. I imagine a big check from Board Planalda and little to no regard. He started reading the Owen Colfer series, and then someone from the Irish Tourism Board handed him a check, and then that was it. He'd made his director's choice.
I'll have to go check it out, actually. It's Kenneth Branagh. I think Kenneth Branagh directed it.
It's so shit. Or Colin Farrell's in it, and it is garbage.
Ooh. But I could have looked into all of this more, but I really wanted to get to the heart of the story, so I'll fly through some of this.
Let's go.
1350, they build the hall to replace the old place, so they knock that down. They
all right.
This, Cavan, was rebuilt at the time of the Black Death, so they were, I imagine, trying to take advantage of the bust right after the boom, cheap labor and all of that.
Yeah.
There's
wait till housing prices fall due to the Black Death, the plague sweeping across the country, and then buy.
Yes, buy low, sell when someone dies. I think that's what makes a castle, by the way?
Turrets? Is this some sort of like
no? I genuinely don't
rhetorical question. How many roads must have ran?
Genuinely,
yeah, I don't know.
You'll know it when you see it. It's like porn. It's hard to describe it, but there's turrets sticking out of it, and they're firing stuff at people and moats. That's
all those things.
That's the kind of porn I watch anyway. But the castle is about 50 kilometres from Wexford town on the Hook Peninsula, which is part of the origins of the phrase "by hook or by crook," because Oliver Cromwell said he'd take Wexford by hook, Hookhead, or Crook, which was seemingly a little village in Waterford.
Interesting. Okay.
It was Cromwell's conquest of Ireland that saw the ownership of the castle and grounds eventually change hands, as in the 1650s it was given to the Loftus family, and that's how it got its name, Loftus Hall. This is a story
Where
about
did they come
Loftus
up with that
Hall.
name?
It's their last name, and then they kept the name of the hall.
Very clever.
Yeah. Now, the owner at the time, Alexander Redmond, you remember the Redmonds?
Sure, yes.
He was said to have fought off multiple attacks during the 11-Year War and Cromwell's conquest. I didn't know that the 11-Year War was also called the Irish Confederate Wars.
Yeah.
Which is...
It's why you see lads down in Wexford flying the Confederate flag and then being like, no, it's not racist. It's not racist.
Yeah.
We just hate Cromwell.
They do that in Cork as well, because they're like, well, we're the rebel county and the colours of that flag are the same. And they're like, yeah, but it only has one connotation. Like, there's only... It's not like swastika laundry. Well, that had a swastika. Nothing ever had the Confederate flag before the Confederate flag. So it's 100% exactly what you think it is. Super racist. Now, Redmond had been attacked a bunch of times. On July 20th, 1642, about 90 English soldiers turned up, and they had 2 cannons. The then 68-year-old Redmond barricaded the gaff, It was himself, 2 of his sons, some of their friends who were probably soldiers, and an itinerant tailor.
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't think you can call them tailors anymore.
I don't think that's culturally appropriate.
No.
But that's what everywhere I read it, that dude's only referenced in some of the accounts, and every single time he's referenced as an itinerant tailor, and no account of him doing anything. It's just like, by the way, there was a traveller in there as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't get it, but
Yeah.
so a total of 10 men, basically. The soldiers start attacking, but they can't get close enough for the little cannons to do any damage, because, I don't know, they were probably travel cannons or pop-up cannons.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
sure. Right.
Yeah, like disposable cannons. Don't ever trust disposable cannons for either, guns or cameras.
Yeah.
So of these 90, even though it looked like Redmond would be fecked, about half of these English soldiers decided to abandon their captain so they could run off and pillage the countryside.
Okay. This sounds like a story that was told by Redmond.
I don't know, because, the Irish Confederate forces are nearby. They hear of the skirmish. They go to Redmond's aid. There's about 30 of the English soldiers escape. The rest of them that haven't ran away, they're all murdered, either on the field or else they're hung a few days after, including the captain of the English.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's possibly one of the most successful stories in terms of Ireland armies in a battle that we've talked about on this podcast.
Yeah, that's a pretty decisive victory. It actually killed 30 people.
And the captain. So that's like fair play to them. But Redmond was attacked a good few more times until eventually he agreed terms with Cromwell, so he would surrender, but he would be allowed to keep his house until he died the year after in 1651. And then all of his...
Was that part of the plan? He's like, I'll be dead in a year anyway.
Well, I feel like it's a year. It's hard.
I'll wind it down. It's
hard to know the numbers exactly, but it is very soon after. And his terms are basically, you get to stay until you die, and then afterwards, your wife and family have all their possessions taken from them and they're kicked out onto the streets.
Yeah, they're what a bastard. My terms are, I'm fine, and then once I'm gone, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Carte blanche.
But overall, the Redmonds seemingly helped the Confederacy or the Irish rebels. So fair play to him.
So they were good old boys.
Yeah, and it's the last we'll hear of Redmond now. But his descendants would go on to be part of the flight of the wild geese, and were also big enough names in the political scene. Most notably, the head of the Irish Parliamentary Party, John Redmond.
John Redmond. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a descendant.
Yeah.
So now,
very good.
Who were the Loftuses? I'm asking you, Kev.
You're asking me just because I got the John Redmond thing right. Just I don't know who the Loftus people are.
No, it's because it's how I have it written here in the script, and it has a question mark. So I've read it now.
I can't legally continue until if you'd ask. I don't know.
You won't know.
Who are the Loftus?
You won't know them.
Sure.
Yeah, the house was given over to the family Loftus, who'd been living in Feathered Castle. I think I have a cousin that lives there, in Feathered, not the castle. But over the years, the shout out
some connection.
Shout out to Lawrence. I don't know if he's a listener to the podcast. I hope he is. But over the years, the family rose in their ascendancy, getting 2 barons, an earl, a viscount, and in latter years, a marquis. They'd use that for
tent.
They'd use that for functions out in the back garden. It was very tasteful.
Yeah. Now I'm assuming by all these leaps and bounds that they'd be one of them families.
Yes, capital P.
Sure. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Their eyes would be a bit far away from each other.
Yeah. None of their sons are called Fiacre.
No.
With all of those earls and barons and everything, the majority of those came after the events of the story that we're about to get into now. So don't like they're rich, but they're not crazy lords. They're well to do.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Now, also just as a side note, ballsy enough having a big giant house like that in Wexford if you hate the Irish, because Wexford's a very rebellious county, or had been throughout our history. So if you're going to be taking over a giant house and being a dick, I don't know.
It's a bad move anywhere in the country, really.
Yeah, but Wexford in particular.
But especially Wexford and Cork, yeah.
Yeah, there's places around Ireland that you just no, don't do that. If you're going to live in Offaly, you could be a Protestant overlord in Offaly and you'd be grand. So now, here we go. Our story today truly begins on a dark, blustery night on Hook Peninsula in the 1750s, give or take.
Jesus. I'll take.
Take? Okay.
I want more of this. To be honest, I was just gonna say, for a scary story, I hadn't been too scared yet, but as soon as you just said dark and stormy night there, chills.
Yeah. Well, that was all.
mean,
that was just backstory for the house that we're in, just to let you know that there has been a lot of bloodshed along in the history of that place.
Sure. This is that's always the best part of a ghost story, when you whip out the torch at a campfire and light it up underneath your face, and then be like, just before we get started, a little backstory. In the year 1175, there was a synod in the town of Ratfoot, and if we stop over for a minute for a brief refresher course in Italian politics, that'll come in useful later on.
How much do you know about the Baroque Gothic architecture? Because we could.
So stop listening to this ghost story. Pick up that ghost story over there about the Baroque Gothic architecture, and then come back and listen to this ghost story for the real benefits.
Charles Tottenham. So that's his name.
Hotspur.
Yeah, you know
Right.
he's scum. You'd know he's scum
Yeah.
just from the name. He marries Anne Loftus and was now the Lord of the Manor. She was the daughter
Nice.
of the first Viscount. I think the first Viscount ever. That's exactly what it is. That's all.
Okay.
That's all I've written here. They had
Yeah.
they had 6 kids before she died,
And 7 afterwards. A medical miracle.
They had 6 kids before Anne passed away. One of the kids was called Anne as well. We'll be talking about her. But from that
Right.
point onwards, Charles took a life of celibacy, devout to his religion and wife's memory. No, sorry, I've misread that. He remarried, this time to his cousin Jane Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, listen.
Well, his name's Tottenham. Like, what did you expect? But
What did you expect that this man in, what is this, the 16? What year is this?
this is the 1750s.
A man in the 1750s would just raise 6 children by himself.
No, but don't marry
Not a
your
hope.
cousin.
That man's
No.
marrying his cousin.
There's surely options. There's options. You've got a big house.
Yeah, you've got multiple cousins.
I suppose, yeah. But also, maybe it's second
Yeah.
cousins. It might not be as bad. But that's not what it's saying here. Anyway, this dark and stormy night, there's a rapping on the doors of Loftus Hall. There's a young, handsome, sopping wet stranger that needs a place to stay. As his story goes, his horse was spooked in the storm, throwing him off its back and running away. He'd said he'd just arrived down at Hook Head because of the storm, had to pull his boat into the harbour, and he was travelling up from there when it happened.
Okay.
A believable story, in fairness. I've been there. It's not that far of a walk. The reason I picked this story is because I used to go on holidays to Wexford when I was a kid. My auntie and uncle lived down there, and I would have known this ghost story at the time. I'll tell you more about that afterwards, so I don't spoil it. But,
All right.
Yeah,
But you've made this, you've traveled this walk.
I have done this walk. I have seen this house from a distance. I was very afraid. We would, it's only 45 minutes of a holiday from my hometown. Like, but when you're a child, that's a very big distance.
True.
Yeah. So overall, a fairly believable story. There's multiple different there's multiple different accounts of it, but for the most part, the story has the through line of stranger came to the door, really bad stormy night, knocking on it. They said, "Feck it, sure, let him in." So
every ghost story ever.
yeah, don't let people into your house ever. And that's not
No,
that
especially not sopping wet young lads.
yeah, that was pre-COVID, and for sure during COVID, don't let ghosts into your house. But they decide he has to stay because the storm is now. Here's where the story diverges again. It's one of two things: either all of this happens in the space of one night, or this is, by account, is it longer. For the sake of filling time on this podcast. They decide to let him come in and stay, but the weather doesn't really let up, so he has to hang around for a few days or weeks. It's hard to know. But during which time?
I know the weather's bad here, but like, it's not, I'm stuck inside for 4 days bad.
And people were hardier back then as well, so I have a feeling it's a couple of days of bad weather. Or maybe, here's the thing, Kev, maybe he just wants to hang around, because during this time there, he and young Anne fall head over heels for each other.
Right, yeah.
So that's probably why he's staying, for the ride.
Oh, looks like he's just fucking goes out every morning, tears up a bit of grass and chucks it in the air. But don't like the look of that.
No. Although that's kind of.
Have you got the old 5-day forecast there? The old Med-Air and 5-day. Not liking the look of that.
Maybe next Monday. Next Monday comes around. Maybe next Monday. Did you mean I meant Monday week? But what were the odds though of going into a place and find you knock on a random door and find the love of your life in there, this gorgeous girl who's from money?
Yeah,
that's the aim. That's all I ever want. It's just to, like, none of these coffee shop girls. I'm looking for. I want a bank account. I want a proper. People who work in coffee shops definitely have bank accounts, but they're not. They're not necessarily as beefed up as I would like it. I want a sugar mama, but I want the sugar mama to be 3 years younger than me and out of my league, both in terms of intelligence and attractiveness.
And I'm pretty sure the only way you're going to find that girl is if you just start knocking on random doors while soaking wet.
Yes, which is very difficult in Austin because it's always quite warm here. If I just start knocking on doors soaking wet, people are like, what have you been up to?
Yeah, that is the only thing standing in the way of you and your true love. But this is the 1750s when like falling head over heels in love just means that two people of, I'm not even going to say the same age, it just means that two people saw each other once. Yeah, two people saw each other and then a week later neither of them were dead, so they decided to get married. There you go. Yeah. But now, if it's a bit like COVID relationships or like 2020 relationships in general, that's what we should just call them. But like you're stuck inside together, so you might as well. Like I wonder how many people who were housemates are now dating because of COVID. Yeah, I feel like it's gone the other way as well. How many people who were dating are now housemates because of COVID? Oh, for sure, but that's only for the best, because it would have happened eventually anyway. But one night they're playing cards. Could be the same night. Probably not. They're playing cards. Anne drops one onto the floor. As she goes down to pick it up, she looks underneath the table, and what does she see, Kevin? Cloven feet. Yeah. Hooves. Which would be a quintessential sign of what, Kevin? Not a minotaur. A fawn? An Englishman. Yes. An Englishman who's also the devil. Yes, I think that's redundant. Yeah. This gives Anne a woeful fright, but not as much as when he turns into a big ball of fire and bursts up through the roof. That's a great way of getting out of a one-night stand. Yeah, that's a good trick to have up your sleeves. But so, was he wearing shoes up until this point? Did no one look down? Did he, like, what's going on? Maybe it's one of those where it's like, he could put his disguise on, but it probably takes some energy to do that. So maybe when he has his legs, he was busy. He had a really good hand, and he was just focused on trying to like read Loftus. He's not concentrated on his feet. Yeah, or maybe it's like when you take your shoes off on an airplane. You're kind of like, it's just relaxing. You sit down, start playing poker. You kick off your shoes, let your cloven feet like spread, let them air out a little bit. They might be smelly in those shoes. Who takes off their shoes on an airplane? Oh, scum. Scum with no respect for themselves or their flight passengers. They're co-passengers. Co-passengers, is that what we're calling it? Yeah. There's enough. Colleagues. There's enough. Air colleagues. But yeah, say what you want about the devil. He's a good showman. Yeah. He's got pizzazz. Sure, yeah. I mean, that's what he's well known for. Yeah. Although you'd be pretty annoyed as well. I suppose you'd just be happy that he left. But like, does he have to burst into a big ball of flames and make a hole in your roof just to do it? Classic the devil. Yeah, if you're going to do it, why can't you just burst out the window? That's easier fixed. You just stick up, just be like, Mea Culpa, sorry lads, you got me, the old cloven feet. Happens more often than you think. And then just, part as enemies and walk out the door. He just clip-clops his way all the way out. Oh no, you don't need to walk me to the door. I'll do it myself, don't worry. I'll trip myself out, don't worry, you're grand. Good luck. But that's it's probably... Do you reckon that's the best version of an Irish goodbye? He just, turned into a flame and then just bursting through the ceiling. Yeah. Now everyone's seen you. He hasn't technically said goodbye, but everyone knows he's kind of... No, that's the opposite of an Irish goodbye. That's not... When you're trying to slip off quietly and then you fucking Johnny Flame,
I don't-
Human Torch,
I
and
don't-
hop out a window.
If people turn around,
Man, did anyone know when Jason left last night? It was fucking. He said he was going for a pint at the bar, and it didn't seem. Oh yeah, no, he turned into a ball of flame and then burst through the smoking roof, the roof, of the smoking area.
but if no one was looking at you, if you were just like,
Then why
here-
bother doing it? If no one's looking at you, why do the flames at all?
if you could turn into a ball of flames, you're saying you wouldn't do that as a way to get out of every room you'd ever be in.
Yeah, all right, you got me. You
Yeah.
got me.
Because he does it. He ends up making the hole in the roof. They say to this day it can't be 100% repaired because, you know,
That's just a lazy,
it's bad
lazy
builder.
workman sold him that. Yeah.
As the devil.
Asher, you never get it 100% right. You know yourself. It's been leaking for the last 3 years, Asher. Listen, once the devil gets at it, you never ever fix it 100%.
Yeah, it's more of just you're putting a plaster over it for the most part. You're never going to fix it properly. It's just how long
No.
can we keep it okay? Yeah.
That'll need parts.
Oh yeah. Another 2 days. I might need to call some of the boys. Yeah. But and also another good reason. My ma was right growing up. Like, don't play cards. Cards are bad for you. Like, you lose all your money. You'll end up getting into arguments with the devil. It's not worth it.
No.
Although that's one of the other theories that Loftus tried to
Like,
cheat
when
the
you're-
devil playing cards, and that's why he got so annoyed.
Sure. Well, when your mum said that to you, she meant specifically to you.
Uh,
I remember those games of cards we'd played back when we were kids. Your mad fleece you every time. She'd always be like, Jason, don't play cards. You're shit at it. The rest of us were fine.
I was too.
Yeah, you kept saying that. No one cared then. No one cares now.
But shortly after this event, to continue the ha-ha notes, the funny lines, Anne went and became incredibly mentally ill.
Yeah, I suppose this would do it to you.
Yeah, I never recovered from the horrible event because, to be fair, I know a lot of girls that just don't get over. Like, they find the love of their life, he gets the ride, and he pisses off and never talks to him again.
Yeah.
It's compounded by the fact that he's Lucifer himself, but on the whole, I think we can all kind of glean. We know enough about this situation outside of the devil, where we're like, yeah, you know what it's like when you want to be with someone, they don't want to be with you, they turn into a ball of flames and wreck your ceiling. It's
I've had friends of mine tell me this exact story. Yes.
yeah. Sometimes twice in the same night. It's more common than you think.
Yeah. He was the devil himself.
The family, being Tottenhams and therefore absolute vermin, human beings, didn't want to be dealing with her bringing the mood of the mansion down. So instead of having her crying all the time within earshot, they put her in the far end of the house in the tapestry room.
Yeah, okay. That's a luxury of the rich, I suppose.
But in fairness, they said it was her favourite room, so that's why they put her there. It's not just coincidental that it's the only place out of earshot of the rest of the house.
But tapestries are like TV of the time.
Yeah, this is a small room, I'm fairly sure, because I remember seeing photos and videos of it when I was watching documentaries years ago about it, which I didn't do for this podcast to bone up on it.
No.
But yeah, it was meant to be her favourite room. They did it all up, put lots of nice dolls and different things in there to keep her entertained, but it didn't really matter.
Got the latest BBC tapestries in.
Yeah,
A couple of short-run Swedish crime documentaries, tapestries.
Yeah, they had a Danish police drama. It was the problem was that this wasn't, none of those things were going to keep her happy, because she was like,
No.
after just witnessing all of that, and probably wasn't 100% there beforehand. We'll talk about that at the end.
So you've just seen the devil, and they just put her in a room and said, like, what about this carpet?
Yeah,
What if you just look at this carpet?
what if it was salmon?
Yeah.
But she cried, in fairness to her. She did cry a good bit. Despite her parents doing up the room, she was quite sad.
Sure.
She'd be known to just sit in her chair with her knees underneath her chin, completely mute, apart from the odd cry as she just look out the window, waiting for your man to come back someday. She died in 1775, and it's said that when she was buried,
Wow.
her knees were up under her chin because they couldn't move her legs. I imagine the years of doing that, as well as rigor mortis and the like.
No, this is just more shoddy workmanship. from an undertaker who couldn't be arsed.
No, because think about it. Like,
could you not stretch her out in the coffin? Those knees are stuck. Those are lock knees.
Have you ever fallen asleep resting your head on your hand, like in an upright position?
Yes.
And then it could be half an hour, it could be an hour or two, you wake up and it's still there, and you're like, oh, look, I'm awake now. And then you're like, oh, I feel fine. And you try to move that arm 1 centimeter. And it is like pain you've never felt before. That's her knees after about the first year of this. I'd say even if she got over the devil, she was like, well, I'm not moving. It's not worth it. It's not.
When have you ever fallen asleep with your head in your hands for an hour or two?
Oh man, what are you talking about? Like, on an armrest, and then you just kind of lean off and like, of course, the audience can't see the action that I'm doing. Now, I would say I don't do it all too often, but my dad is a horror man
that's
for it.
different. Yeah, that's different. He's any middle-aged man can sleep like that for hours. Yeah.
He's great at it. And then my ma will come down, wake him up, and be like, "Seamus, will you stop doing that?" And he's like, "I'm grand, I'm fine." And then he'll fall asleep for another hour, and then he'll wake up. And it's one of my favorite things, getting to see my dad move his arm. And then every single time it's, oh, yes, and it's not like once a month; it's like a weekly thing. But now Anne's ghost is meant to still haunt the place, particularly the tapestry room. And over the years, there were accounts of the devil returning to haunt Anne, which it's a pretty dick move.
So, when she was still alive, the devil came back to haunt her.
Well, I'm not sure. That's what I was thinking. It's a dick move to come back and haunt her when she's alive. If he comes back when she's a ghost to haunt her,
a ghost, that's
no peace. That's like that's like when Conan got the Late Show, and then Jay Leno came back after him to do like the show like directly.
Yeah, before it,
yeah, no, the one directly after it. He took an even later.
Oh, sorry,
show.
Yes,
yeah. Giving the man no peace, not even a chance to succeed, and that's very much so like what the devil was doing to poor ghostly Anne.
Yeah.
But although, what would you even be doing to a ghost? How would you spook a ghost?
I know. You haven't really got anything on them. I don't know. How would a ghost? What would a ghost do to scare you anyway?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's really all they've got. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like, I never understood the thing about ghosts haunting the place where they died. Surely that'd be the last place you want to go. You could go anywhere.
I think you're trapped there.
Maybe with that attitude.
You don't have a car. You're not Ghost Rider. You're kind of like, you're going to be hoofing it, especially if you're the devil, or herself. But I don't think you can really scare a ghost. But maybe you can just be annoying, like every time you go. I mean, every time she goes to go, ooh, the devil jumps up and just covers her mouth, and she's like, it's the only thing I have.
Thing. Yeah. I feel it'd be hard to annoy a ghost because they'd just be so fed up with like everything. It'd be very hard to rankle, you know. It'd be kind of like now, here we are in like the tail end of 2020, facing into another lockdown. Like if the devil showed up in your room, you'd just be like, right, yeah, grand.
Yeah,
there's another thing. Yeah.
But it's just memes of the devil in your room going, fuck 2020. Like that's FML.
Devil's here now, lol 2020. Yeah, like if you're in Anne's position and you're stuck haunting Loftus Hall for the whole life, and the devil shows up to scare you, you're like, right, yeah, grand.
Just my luck, 2020, and the devil comes over for a cup of tea directly before a 6-week lockdown. And now I'm just stuck with him. And you know what he's like.
A bad man. Tells the most racist jokes.
And then laughs at him himself, which is not a good trait in anybody.
It's unbecoming.
Yeah. Now, so they say that because the devil or other spirits would haunt the place so much, because I mean Anne has spirits there as well, seemingly. The Loftus family had numerous clergymen come to the house, despite them being Catholic. I don't know. Do Protestants have exorcists or ghosts?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, because all Protestants, I think the main thing with ghosts is that they like feel like they've got unfinished business, and that's why they stay here. Protestants are too content to have ghosts. It's the guilt that brings the Catholic ghosts back. That's the only reason we have ghosts. Like, no, I died, but Jesus, did I do everything? No, there must be something. I must have fucked up something.
Did I
better go back just to be sure.
Did I lock the front door? No, let me check. Let me double check, and then you go back, and then you go back to the netherworld, and as soon as you get there, you're like, I know I went to the front door to see if I locked it, and I know I was there, but now I can't remember again if I've locked it. It's happened to me twice.
Listen, you did your best. It's time to move on into the next life. No. Bollocks. No, I must have fucked something up.
There's a county final that I've never won. Every GAA pitcher in the country is just inundated with the souls of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of unsuccessful GAA players.
Yeah. No, the mother's not been feeling well the last while. You know what it is? I'm going to just go back and I'll haunt the house for the next 40 years until she dies. And then maybe then I'll go.
They tried to vanquish these evil spirits. One of the priests even had a quotation on his gravestone that said, "Here lies the body of Thomas Broaders, who did good and prayed for all, and who banished the devil from Loftus Hall." I do like it when inscriptions on gravestones rhyme. That is nice. That's nice. But also, it's still a haunted house, so we can take that gravestone down.
Yeah,
like that's. I don't want to be unnecessarily mean to the man, but. It's a cool rhyme. It's a nice gravestone, but it's not true.
Yeah,
it's not true. So I think if we could all get together and start a petition to take that man's gravestone down, Thomas Broaders.
You don't need a petition, Jason. You just need a sledgehammer.
I don't know if I could wield a sledgehammer. I could.
I don't know if we could sign a sledgehammer, but so Thomas just died and failed at his job, and they were like, sure. We'll throw him a bone.
Yeah, they were like, look, there hasn't been any hauntings for a couple of weeks. Maybe he got it, and it was just too soon. It was just way too soon.
Yeah. He definitely had that inscribed himself before he died, and no one had the heart to tell him.
He was like, no, that's not the devil. That's one of the other ghosts. I got rid of the devil.
Yeah. So, did all the Catholic priests, when they showed up the Tottenham's door, I imagine the first thing they said was, well, if it isn't old Prod himself. Look who's come crawling to the Catholic Church. Maybe we could all sit around and say a little prayer to the Holy Mary. Oh, I suppose you wouldn't be interested in that sort of a thing now, would you? Tottenham. Too good for that sort of malarkey, I suppose.
What do you have for dinner, or do you have any snacks? Do you have the body and blood of God? Oh no, you don't believe in transubstantiation.
Interesting. So it's no wonder the devil's here.
The devil's Tottenham.
Well, sure.
Now the family went bankrupt in the 1800s and sold Loftus Hall to the.
Those fucking priests didn't come cheap.
No, I suppose between that and then just I don't know what they did, to be honest. And I feel like how do people go poor back in the day when you have money? I don't understand. I don't get it.
I think it's the same now when it's sort of generational thing where, like, you know, someone's grandfather will have a plantation and, I don't know, be a good farmer and then have enough money to maintain a mansion, and then that gets passed on to their children who grew up with money and are a little more lazy. And then when it goes on to the third generation of children, even more lazy again.
They spunk all the money on Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But then you got to pay for, like, the upkeep of a giant mansion, but yet you've never worked a day in your life, so...
That does make sense, and to be fair.
Yeah. You've got to pay for all the rich people things, like butler wax, gold strengthener.
Gold strengthener?
Diamond... shiner, diamond polish. I'm sure that doesn't come cheap.
Diamond shiner.
These are things I've tried to sell to rich people. You need butler wax, and really you need butler wax plus, if I'm being honest with you.
For the coating, you don't want to let that coating go amiss.
Not sure, if you only want to put on one coating, then yeah, you could skimp on the wax.
I suppose you could do that if you wanted to throw away your money and have me back here in 2 years.
Yeah. With a decrepit looking butler.
So Loftus Hall at that point is sold to the Benedictines, Cavan, and later became
monks.
Yeah, and later on became a convent for the Sisters of Providence. But it said that everyone was too afraid to go to mass because it was a haunted house where the devil used to be. So it didn't work out as in the long run.
Yeah, sure, not a great purchase.
Yes. Why is this house so cheap? No reason. Is it? But you know that we're going to bring in a
What's up with
convent.
that hole in the roof?
Yeah, we're going to bring a convent in here, so I just want to make sure there's not the devil hasn't been. I'm getting a devil feeling or from this. I'm getting a vibe of devilishness. No. We had a lad called Luke Suffer there the other week, but that'd be about it. That'd be as close as we got.
That's what you were thinking of, yeah.
And in the 1870s, during another restoration, because they're mad for restoring the place, it said that the remains of a baby were found in the walls of the tapestry room.
Oh no.
Yeah. Now,
although the remains of a baby is just anyone. We're all the remains of a baby.
Good point. I feel like this is a skeletal remains, Kevin.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yes, that's for sure a dead baby body.
I'd be very useless on like a forensic team.
Well, I suppose technically we're all dead in some way. I've been dead on the inside for years. You don't see me complaining about it. Not calling an ambulance down about it.
He's been shot twice. On film or digital?
I told you, don't trust those cannons. Okay, well, so that's not the end of it. I have some other things to talk about, but now we can chat about actual Loftus Hall and the story there.
Okay.
Like, what do you reckon happened?
The short version? Nothing.
Oh, I have theories coming out the wazoo, Kevin.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got insider reports. I don't know, the whole like devil dropped a card on the floor and saw the hooves. That's a very common story.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in Ireland, I think it's across Europe. Loads of different countries have a version of that story.
No, for sure, but I think in this case they've probably used it.
They're all imitators.
Yeah, they've been. I mean, maybe the devil just likes doing that. Maybe that's what he does. It makes sense if he's done it once to do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, actually. Yeah. Only in this example could I be like, Jason, there's hundreds of reports of this story, which for some reason means it's definitely false. Loads of people from loads of different backgrounds, unrelated to one another, have told this exact story, which means it's bogus.
I do remember when you were doing that, when you were trying to become Bill Cosby's lawyer.
He sexually assaulted this woman. He raped this woman. It's either there's two versions of the story. Either this never happened, or my client is some sort of monster.
And he wears a cardigan. So let's be honest now. Who do we think's really in the wrong here? Now I reckon it's a case of the devil was probably some Republican farmer that Anne fell in love with.
Right.
It's probably something like that. And then the family, when maybe he asked for a hand in marriage and the dad was like, get the feck, not at all. Or it could something along the lines, I'd say.
Okay.
That's my theory.
Do you reckon, all right, a late minute theory then for me, I think it was a goat.
A goat or a ghost goat?
No, and not the greatest of all time, but literally just a goat.
Just a goat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Anne wasn't mentally ill. Maybe she was just a fucking idiot.
Yeah, maybe. So, like, yeah, the bit of the story about her being shocked when she saw his hooves was true, but they left out the earlier bits where he was also, the rest of him was a goat.
Was a goat.
Yeah.
She thought he was going to be some kind of reverse centaur or minotaur.
Yeah. She only looked at his feet and she thought he was a reverse. Is it a fawn? What's the thing from Narnia?
Oh, I'd never watched or read it.
Yeah.
I reckon it's a case of something like that, or maybe she got pregnant with a local lad's baby, and then the dad was like, maybe the kid died, and that's why she's so upset. But then she's not allowed to see the lad. Maybe the lad was killed. Who knows? Like, it's Tottenham's. I wouldn't put anything past them. But I'll tell you now, from my time in Wexford, when I was there, I'd say I was around 8, if even. And my Uncle Larry took us down to Loftus Hall, and we drove down and then walked a good bit up towards it. And yeah, it was like pitch dark. It was probably like, 11, 12 at night, and we're walking down there, and all of a sudden Larry just stops dead and then turns around and goes, Christ, look at that. And then we both turn around, me and my brother, and we're like looking for ages just into like the black abyss and going like, what is it? And then we turn around and our Uncle Larry's running he's about 100 yards up the road. He's gone. He just left the two kids. And I never found out whether that was a bit that he was doing or did he genuinely hear something and be like, "Fuck it, every man for himself."
If the kids can't outrun the devil, they were never going to survive in this world anyway. It's sink or swim time.
But there's another, Tintern Abbey, I think, is another place down in Wexford near enough that spot. It has some ghost stories and stuff, I believe, as well. But I remember being down there, again, pretty young, and walking by. I don't know if I've told this story in the podcast before, but it's for years and years I thought I'd seen vampires. Because we were walking around, it was some like Saturday or Sunday morning, fairly early. We were walking around the forest in like Tintern Abbey, and we saw these 4 people, like young enough people, just like pasty as so pasty, just like a milk bottle kind of white shade. They're just all like skagged out of it basically, and it took me about 15 years to put that together. That I was like, even when I was like 18, I was like, but we never found out what that was. And then a couple of hangover sessions in your 20s, and you're like, oh, I can 100% see what it was. It was yips. It was just yips.
I see now. Yes.
Yeah. But in the 1980s, the Loftus Hall was reopened as a hotel. It had gone not abandoned, but just disused for a long time. I remember hearing
they're taking big swings with this place. So it's like it's haunted, and someone was like, let's build a convent.
Yeah.
And then that gets closed down because it's too haunted. And they're like, let's build a hotel.
Yeah, well, they read,
take it easy.
They read The Shining and they were like, I've got an idea.
Yeah. I don't really think I understood the book, but this Tarn fellow, I think he's on to something.
But so it was opened as a hotel. I remember my uncle and aunt telling me.
They just call it the Overlook Hotel and go straight forward.
No, the Devil's House, the Devil's bit. Yeah. The come and get us, devil, if you think you're hard enough.
Yeah.
But now the guy who opened it, he died in the place. And then his wife ran the hotel until she went mysteriously missing.
Which was the greatest work of Satan of all.
What?
A woman running a business in 1980s Ireland.
Well, she didn't do it for very long because she mysteriously vanished. Not long after. Now see, I remember people saying that there was an old woman that lived in there for like alone in this giant place. But I don't know. Maybe she did. I don't know. It's too many people.
Maybe it was just a really bad hotel. She didn't live there alone. She just ran a hotel. And there was no guests.
There's just no signage from the main roads.
Yeah.
But it reopened a few years ago as a ghost tour type deal, Kevin.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Now that's what you put in Loftus Hall.
Yeah. Now that was until COVID hit and ruined it. Or now maybe it was a dying business anyway, but either way, it's up for sale now.
It didn't stand a ghost of a chance.
It was actually part of a ghost estate, Kevin.
Okay. the spookiest thing of all, bad housing management.
It sits with 22 bedrooms, a footprint of some 27,124 square feet, 63 acres of land, its own private beach, and it's gone on the market for...
I was just going to say you were trying to sell me this thing. You've put your real estate hat on. I'm not going to buy the ghost house.
I do get 1% commission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's 2.5 million.
2.5 mil?
Yeah. Would you be arsed? Like, I wouldn't take the gamble on a devil house, because now it was bought initially in 2011 for 625,000. It had sold in 2008 for 1.7, which I imagine was like the day before the recession.
Yeah, actually. It's not haunted. I'm going to flip this property in no time.
Yeah, that was the scariest part of it. It's haunted, not by the devil, just by really bad timing with worldwide downturns and recessions. But yeah, now the Quigleys have decided to sell it, and I want to end on this. The owner said, "I'm not just going to sell it to anyone. I'll be interviewing potential buyers. If a state body comes in, that's an option. If an American owner wants to live here, I'd be keen to work with them to restore it." And basically what he's saying is, I'm not going to sell it to anyone, but anyone at all I will sell this to. Just please, anyone. Foreign people, Americans with money, come back. This is like the field.
Yeah.
But there's no Bull McCabe. Like, they're just all takers. Any and all comers, please.
That just sounds like a bitter man is like, well, I won't sell it to anyone local, but if the government wants to buy it, well, then they're welcome to this devil house. And if some yank wants to come over and try his luck with it, well, all the better for it.
But that's the story of Loftus Hall.
There you go. I don't think I'll be able to sleep tonight. That was chilling stuff.
Ah. Now yours. Tell me about this man from Cavan.
Well, Jason, so my story is particularly scary because it's a true story.
I thought you were going to say it's particularly scary because you're going in blind because you haven't done any fucking research.
I know. Well, this is an impromptu Halloween special. I figured I wouldn't bother. I'm going to be reading this in real time. But it comes from the Belfast Journal, the 4th of March, 1864, which is far enough ago that it still seems sort of relevant, but also far enough away that there doesn't need to be any real first-hand evidence.
Oh yeah, if a story for me goes earlier than 1985, it's all just hearsay.
Yeah, then you don't need to back anything up with facts or, accounts. So, Catherine and Peter Riley were sitting in at the fire in their home in Coolnaculla, County Cavan, when a man entered the house without knocking. There was also a nephew of theirs, and also I think he was a servant of some sort, called James Malloy. Peter himself was a farmer of pretty comfortable means, and he was also a bit of a local moneylender.
A shark?
A bit of a loan shark, I assume, yes. So, for some reason, they're not concerned by the fact that this guy is, just walked into their house. And I think... So, according to this story, they just, offer him a seat and give him a bit of food before asking, what's going on here.
So this stranger who's a loan shark just walks into their house?
No, sorry, the guy... The loan shark owns the house.
Oh, right.
And some stranger just walks
We don't
in.
know his name yet. Okay, so it's just some
Right.
randomer just walks into the house. It's the devil.
Well, there's no...
He turns into...
It hasn't been said.
He turns into a ball of flames and he bursts up through the ceiling.
Well, it hasn't been said in this story yet, but I'm going to assume it was a dark and stormy night.
Yes.
And then this guy just walks into his. The man says, "Is this not where Peter Riley lives?" And he was told it was. And again, at this stage, they're not being like, "Who are you? What's happening here?" So the stranger pulls up a chair beside the fire. Catherine gets up and lights a candle. So all these events happened on the 22nd of January, 1864. Although they were reported, 4 months later in the newspaper. But the fact that there's a date, Jason, makes it much more real.
Yes. If there was a time on it as well, 5:24 p.m., I'd be...
Yeah. I'm going to say it was midnight.
Yeah, it's why Law and Order always hits hard, because it's dum, dum, and you're 5 p.m, 5:17.
You're like, Jesus, it's 5:17 here. This could have been
That's
me.
a real time. I could understand this.
So Peter asks, "Did you come far?" And the man says, "A pretty good piece. Do you not know me?" Peter replies, "How should I know you?" The man says, "Do you not know Kangley, that the ass took the hand off?" And as he says this, he reveals the fact that one of his hands is missing.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, so I guess he's missing a hand, and he's like, do you not remember Kangley, that the ass took the hand off?"
So his name's Kangley, obviously.
His name's Kangley, but also... Even, I feel like he should have a better way of telling this story. Do you not remember the lad who lost his hand to an ass?
I mean, I assume he does. I'm guessing that the next line is, "Ah, yes, sure 'tis yourself, your man with the one arm."
Yeah, well, yes. Well, this jogs Peter's memory. So about 13 years beforehand, it says between 12 and 14, but I'm going to say 13, because that's between and also the spookiest number.
It is, to be fair. And also, I don't know how many hands are ripped from how many limbs are ripped from men per year on farms from horses and donkeys.
Yeah, and I don't know, did he bite it off? Maybe we'll find out as the story goes on. But anyway, yeah, here we go. So 13 years beforehand, a boy that Peter had employed on the farm had his hand bitten off by a donkey. So sorry, it seems like the donkey bit the hand, and then the hand was so badly damaged, and because it's 1860.
Was he trying to feed him?
And it had bit the hand that fed, perhaps. He was they always say never look a gift horse in the mouth. Never ever look a gift donkey in the mouth. So it bit his hand, and then because it was 1850s Ireland, the medical advice was chop it off.
Instead of, I thought they were just going to kill him.
No. He's like, we need to put him down. He's like, well, I got a radical new procedure called amputation. It's all the rage in the Americans.
You're going to take his head off?
Yeah. So it doesn't say what happened to the donkey. Presumably he was fired, but on a full pension, and then given a cushy job in a farm 2 counties over. But Peter remembered that the boy's name was Bernard Kangley, and he disappeared shortly after losing his hand, leaving the work, the townland, and even his family behind. No one had seen him since that very day, 13 years ago.
Oh, so I imagine
until this very moment.
That's sinister. Like, I would be worried if I was him.
Well, Peter wasn't worried. He greeted him as an old friend, and they started chatting away about times gone by and what he'd been up to. Old Kangley.
Things he likes grasping in one hand.
They spent a couple of hours talking. Kangley asked Peter about his mother and his aunts. Meanwhile, Catherine was preparing tea in the parlour and insisted that Kangley spent the night, offering him a bed in the loft with Malloy, who was the servant, above the Rileys' bedroom. The stairs to the loft were in the kitchen, just outside the room where the Rileys slept. So, I don't know why Catherine thinks this is a good idea.
What's going on? Get him out of the house as soon as possible.
A one-handed man has just walked into your house on a dark and stormy night and be like, do you remember 13 years ago when your donkey bit my hand off?
Ah, yes, so would you like to pull up a seat and I'll give you some whiskey and some beef. You can stay the night, sure, why don't you? Do you want to see where the knives are?
So at some point during the evening, Catherine and Peter went down to milk the cows. While they were gone, Kangley said to Malloy that he'd like to see Riley's stock. When the boy said he'd go with him, Kangley decided against it, saying, they'll wonder where it is the two of us are going. Beyond that, there was no odd behaviour to indicate what was going to happen next. I mean, apart from everything that else has happened. So, in the middle of the night, Catherine was woken up by the sounds of steps above her head. Thinking that it was James, the servant, coming down the stairs, she called out, James, take care of yourself and don't fall. But it was Kangley, not Malloy, who answered, from right outside their door. "'Tis not James, Mrs. Riley. It is me."
Okay. Change of story. He's trying to get the right. Older woman. I get it. I like it. She'll take pity. He only has the one arm.
Yeah, but at some point.
But the one arm, but the love you get from the one arm of Kangley would be better than the distant elderly. Then Riley. Riley's cold at this stage. Life's beating him down. He doesn't want to talk to his wife anymore. He just wants to employ horses to bite hands off of young men.
At some point when he was a kid, Kangley had looked at Catherine and said, "Jesus, you know what it is? I give an arm and a leg." And then the donkey looked at the camera and winked, and that's how the story started. But sure, he'd be no good anyway, Jason. Wouldn't be able to drop the hand.
Drop one hand.
And all he needs is the one. But
how do you be doing it?
So
wait, am I missing out on something? Have things changed in sex?
It's a 10-digit job.
Is this a TikTok thing? Have we learned this from TikTok?
You're throwing the mood off here. This is a sinister man standing outside the door. Catherine says, "Take care of yourself and don't fall, James." Kangley replies, "'Tis not James, Mrs. Riley. 'Tis me." Through the closed door, Catherine asked him why you couldn't sleep. What was he up for? Kangley said, "I can see flashes of fire through the window." The only issue was there's no windows in the loft, so Catherine figured he was seeing the moonlight through the kitchen window or something. Peter was also awake at this stage, so he figured he'd get up and investigate. So it's good to see that that's a cliche that travels back to that time. There's I suppose what else would you do? There's a sinister man at the door. Herself is like, "Peter, go and check what that is." Go. He's there's a one-armed madman at the door saying that he can see a fire. Go out there and see what it wants. Go on. So Peter heads out. Catherine stays in the bed. She hears the two of them walk down to the kitchen. And a couple of minutes later, she hears Peter shout, "I am murdered!" Well,
then is like chronologically or like syntaxically, he's wrong. Like he's not.
It's like when someone asks, "Are you asleep?" If you answer, you can't answer yes to that.
Oh,
it's a
yeah, you can.
No, but I mean, it's a the opposite of a truism. But, so in fairness to her, Catherine, she runs down, she enters the room, and she sees Kangley standing over her dying husband. He ran at Catherine, stabbing at her torso with a knife, a clasp knife.
Jesus.
But the farmer's wife, Catherine, she fights with Kangley. Being a woman of some nerve, she tried to defend herself, and did so with extraordinary courage. She said later that he made a stab of a knife at me, stabbed me in the belly along the navel. I catched hold of him by the whiskers of his chin near his neck. He made 2 or 3 other stabs at me, one scratched the skin of my belly. Catherine attempted to grab the knife, but Kangley pulled it back through her hand and nearly cut a finger off her.
Oh, not as bad as being murdered.
No.
Or losing your entire arm.
Well, it's not over just yet.
Oh, so I thought that was it. I thought they became friends then.
We're not so different, you and I. I wanted to murder my husband for years. She grabbed a hedge slasher, which is a scythe, and took a swing at him. She wasn't sure if she hit him, but
you'd know.
Well, I suppose she's just after being stabbed. You couldn't be 100% sure, but she's taking wild swings at him. But whatever happened anyway, Kangley ran out the door.
Okay.
And escaped into the night.
And that was it?
Well, she sent young Malloy out after him to see if she could catch him, but then realised that, Malloy's like 15 years old and she's just sent them after a one-armed man with a knife. She went out afterwards to see if she could find him, and they ran into their neighbour Patrick Smith. So the 3 of them get back together and come back to the house. It was at this point that Catherine faints, which...
Understandable.
Fair play to her, she's been to this far, I suppose. Understandable, yeah. She recovered a short time later, just enough to see her husband finally give up the ghost at 3 a.m. at the 3rd strike of the clock.
Oof.
I wasn't in there, but I thought I'd throw it in just to give it a bit more of a ghost story feel.
Yeah, if you had to wait until...
Rather than just the report of a murder.
4 a.m. is your typical witching hour. Yeah. That's your spooky hour. 3 is kind of like, there's still pubs open at 3.
Now, for some reason, in the early hours of the morning, in a police barracks in Virginia, the police officers were sitting around minding their own business when in walked Kangley, having walked the entire distance barefoot, and confessed to stabbing Peter and Catherine Riley.
What? And what was his reasoning?
I don't know. He had one hand. What reason does he need? Well, it turned out he was a ticket of...
I mean, he couldn't grasp the concept of forgiveness.
So, it turned out he had been a ticket of leave man, which I think we covered in the John Mitchell episode. It meant that he was allowed early release from prison with a couple of restrictions. So I think it was around the 9th of January. So this all happens on the 22nd of January. Around the 9th of January, he'd been an inmate at Smithfield Prison and had just been released.
What? And did we find out why he went to jail? Was it for stabbing people? If it was for stabbing people, you shouldn't be allowed to get out early.
No. They have to give him his possessions back when they're letting him out, and as they hand him the knife, they'd be like, don't use that again. Well, his motives were unclear. No one knows why he did it. Some people suggest it was as a revenge for the fact that Riley's ass had bitten his hand off, which is, fair enough.
I could see
an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
A hand for a hand.
No, a life for a hand.
Yeah. Another reason was money, maybe. Riley was a rich man. Kangley might have been looking out for some cash.
He didn't seem to go for the cash, though. Seemed to many go try and stab him.
That's a good point. All right. But whatever the reason of it was, whenever it went to court, his lawyer, Mr. Irwin, made a defense that he was suffering from homicidal mania. Because apparently before he'd been released from prison, he'd been a model prisoner. But they reckoned, I don't know, this is an early case of
murder,
pleading insanity.
Yeah, right.
They talk about the flashes of fire that he saw before he stabbed them, and they're like, maybe they were murder flashes.
Oh, I'd say he was coming down the stairs to murder them, and then when they were like, "What is it you're doing?" He's like, fire. There's no windows up there. Your donkey took my hand.
Well, whatever happened anyway, he was found guilty, and on the 4th of April 1864, he was hung in Cavan without any visible struggle, it says, which is nice to hear, I suppose.
Do you mean as if he just let it happen, or do you mean that he just had a particular...
I think he just let it happen.
Oh, you don't mean he just had a particularly weak neck?
No.
So we never found out why... that's it?
That's it.
Now...
That was a stupid story.
It was a stupid story. I
hadn't read this story.
The reason... Oh, that'll become very clear to the audience. I guess the reason you did this story is because initially you thought it was a ghost story about Carlo.
Yeah. It's actually just a murder story about a man with one hand who murdered his old employer.
It's The Fugitive, basically.
Yeah. It's pretty spooky, though.
It is, to be fair. It's I can't understand letting the dude into the house.
No, and it's not even they let him into the house after they find out who it is. If they find out who it was, definitely don't let him into the house. If a stranger shows up at your house, if a stranger just walks into your house and starts talking to you,
no, they're not going to be talking to me. I've lived in Texas for too long. They've ingrained me now with the theory of if someone comes onto your property, even if it's the mailman, you shoot them square between the eyes. Shoot first, ask questions later.
shoot them all and let God decide. But that was it. I suppose the interesting bit is that they pled insanity for him. They said that he was unconscious to the act, that he didn't know what he was doing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think what's after happening here is now I wrote a story and then condensed it down a bit so we could do this ghost story episode. And what you did was you Googled a newspaper article from the 1800s.
Well, we weren't supposed to be doing this till later in the week, so I figured I'd have something else. But
that's very true. We might do another one at some point, well, in the next few weeks, about ghost stories and such. This is mainly just because we screwed up that recording and we need to put something out tomorrow.
Sure. So here it is. Anyway, have a happy Samhain. And a spooky Halloween. Well, I suppose we could say, I think it's sort of become commonish knowledge here over the last couple of years, but yeah, Halloween comes from the Irish holiday Samhain, which was like a, end of harvest celebration. But the cutting of pumpkins originated in the carving of turnips.
Yes.
That's what they used to do in the old, and if you look up some pictures of carved turnips,
terrifying.
They're fucking horrifying.
They're terrifying. Yeah. Way scarier than pumpkins.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So listen, forget the gourds this weekend. Go find yourself a turnip, carve a face into it, and have a happy Samhain.
Nice. Good luck, Shafter. See you next week.
All right. Good luck.